They thought they could steal my life while I was halfway across the world, but I was already 3 steps ahead. The rain had already started when Lena Morrell left her apartment that Monday morning, thin, deliberate drops tapping against the windshield like an anxious metronome. Seattle rain had a rhythm of its own. Soft, constant, a kind of whisper that filled the spaces between thoughts. She liked that. It made silence feel alive. Her apartment sat on the top floor of a refurbished warehouse in Belltown, the kind of place she'd only dreamed of affording 10 years ago when she was working double shifts at the law firm's records department. Now, as a project consultant for high-end urban developments, she could almost believe she'd built a steady life. Almost. She took her time locking the door, scanning the quiet hallway, industrial walls, a faint smell of roasted coffee from the cafe downstairs. Every morning was the same. A cup to go, earbuds in, a playlist she never changed. Routine was comfort, and comfort was control. But control, she often reminded herself, was an illusion. The elevator hummed as she descended to the ground floor. Her reflection in the brushed steel doors looked tired, despite the careful hair and muted lipstick. 34 and still learning to balance ambition with emotion. Her coworkers called her steady, her clients called her brilliant. None of them knew that the word she used for herself was adrift. Outside, Pike Place buzzed with the early hum of commuters. The scent of salt water and espresso merged with something else, anticipation maybe. Seattle mornings always carried it, a thin current beneath the noise. She crossed to the parking garage, thinking about her mother's message the night before. Family dinner on Friday. Don't be late again, Lena. Beatrice Morrell didn't ask for attendance. She commanded it. Even after all these years, her tone carried the same sharpness that once made Lena fold her childhood drawings in half before showing them. Work at Harris and Coleman Urban Design unfolded like clockwork. Meetings, renderings, and contract revisions. She spent the morning adjusting proposal figures for a luxury waterfront complex, numbers and deadlines she could manage without emotion. Around noon, she escaped to the office balcony with her lunch, watching gray clouds move over Elliott Bay. A familiar voice interrupted her solitude. Skipping the cafeteria again? She turned to see Daniel Mercer, the firm's legal advisor. His tie was slightly undone, his eyes kind but observant, the sort that noticed more than they admitted. Trying to avoid the gossip circle, Lena replied, a small smile tugging her lips. Daniel leaned on the railing beside her. You know they only talk because you're the only one who gets things done. Flattery from legal counsel, dangerous habit, she teased, though warmth crept into her tone. They'd been friends for 2 years, maybe more. There were moments, a brush of fingertips over blueprints, a pause that lingered too long, when friendship blurred into something she wasn't ready to define. She told herself it was better this way. Stability mattered more than impulse. Still, when Daniel said softly, "You should come to the firm retreat next month," she didn't immediately say no. By the time Lena returned home that evening, the city lights had softened the horizon. She poured a glass of wine and opened the balcony doors. The smell of rain lingered on the wind. Below, the streets shimmered, wet and reflective, like memory itself. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Mara Bennett, her cousin. Heard from Aunt B? She's in one of her moods. Call me before dinner Friday, okay? I need to warn you about something. Lena frowned. Warn me? Before she could reply, another text arrived from her mother. Don't forget to bring the design plans you mentioned last week. Your sisters are curious about your projects. The quotation marks caught her eye. Projects. Beatrice always found a way to turn interest into accusation. Lena set the phone down. The rain had eased, but the unease hadn't. Somewhere between the hum of the city and the soft clink of her glass against the railing, she felt it, a shift, quiet but undeniable. Something in her life, something long kept orderly, was about to break its pattern. Friday arrived too quickly. By dusk, Seattle had folded itself into a dense fog that clung to the skyline. The drive to her mother's estate in Laurelhurst felt longer than usual, though Lena knew every turn by heart. The same oak trees, the same slate-colored fences, the same gate where the family's initials, M, gleamed in gold. She parked her car and sat for a moment, staring at the house that had shaped her. The Morrell estate was everything her mother loved, large, immaculate, and cold in its perfection. The windows glowed faintly from within, warm light trapped behind glass. Lena exhaled and stepped out. The gravel crunched beneath her heels. Inside, the scent of rosemary and lemon greeted her. Beatrice Morrell's signature dinner fragrance, as if hospitality could be choreographed. Lena, her mother's voice called before she'd crossed the foyer. "You're late." "I'm 10 minutes early," Lena replied, hanging her coat. Beatrice appeared at the end of the hallway, poised as ever. Her silver hair was pulled into a low chignon, her expression polished but sharp. "You know I mean emotionally late," she said. "It's been weeks since you visited. Your sisters manage it more often." Lena smiled without warmth. "My schedule's been tight." Beatrice gestured to the dining room. "Then, let's not waste time catching up. Dinner's ready." The table glittered with crystal and candlelight. Miranda, the eldest, was already seated, elegant in a tailored suit, sipping wine like an accessory. Jade sat beside her, scrolling through her phone, her laughter brittle. Paige, the youngest, beamed at Lena with genuine affection. "Finally," Miranda said. "The working woman arrives." Jade smirked. "Don't tease her, Mir. She's got blueprints to build her empire." Lena placed her napkin on her lap. "I'm glad to see sarcasm still runs in the family." Beatrice's fork clinked against her plate. "Enough. Let's have a civilized meal." For a few minutes, the sound of silverware and muted conversation filled the air. The roast was perfect, the presentation flawless. Yet every exchange felt like choreography, each compliment carefully measured, each silence rehearsed. "So," Beatrice began, her tone deceptively casual, "how are things at your firm?" "Still working with that lawyer. What's his name?" "Daniel Mercer," Lena said. Beatrice's eyes glinted. "Ah, yes. The one who seems rather attentive." Miranda chuckled. "Mother, you're meddling again." "I'm observing," Beatrice corrected. "A woman your age, Lena, should consider stability. I assume he's at least responsible." "Daniel's a colleague, not a prospect," Lena replied, trying to keep her tone even. "But he could be," Jade murmured, raising an eyebrow. "You've always liked safe men." Something in Lena snapped, quietly but decisively. "And you've always liked other people's business." The table froze. Paige's gaze darted between them, uncertain. Beatrice sighed. "Girls, please. Not tonight." Lena pressed her napkin down and forced a breath. "I didn't come for an interrogation, Mother." Beatrice smiled faintly. "No, you came because I asked you to." After dinner, Lena escaped to the back patio. The rain had softened again, tapping gently on the stone tiles. She leaned against the railing, eyes tracing the reflection of the lights on the wet surface. A voice came from behind her. "You handle her better than I would have." It was Mara Bennett, her cousin, soft-spoken, graceful, the only person in the house who didn't turn conversation into competition. Lena smiled. "You came late. I waited until dessert. Aunt B doesn't scold me when I'm armed with pie." They laughed quietly, the sound dissolving into the night air. Then Mara's tone shifted. "I wasn't joking about that text, Lena. Something's strange lately." "Strange how?" Mara hesitated, glancing toward the house. "Your mother's been meeting with someone. A man maybe in his 50s. Not family, not a friend. He's been here at least twice this week. She gets nervous when I mention it." Lena frowned. "Nervous? That's new. I overheard a few words yesterday. Something about the transfer and the file being almost ready. I thought it was a business thing, but Aunt B doesn't have business things anymore." Lena turned toward the glowing windows. Through the curtains, she could see her mother standing near the fireplace, phone pressed to her ear, expression tight. "Maybe you're overthinking," Lena said softly, though the pit in her stomach told her otherwise. Mara shook her head. "Be careful. I don't know what's going on, but I have a bad feeling." Later, when Lena prepared to leave, Beatrice walked her to the door. The air between them was cool, but composed. "I expect you for brunch on Sunday," Beatrice said. "Just us." "I'll see," Lena replied. Beatrice's lips curved into that familiar, knowing smile. "You always say that. Yet somehow you always come." Outside, the fog had thickened. Lena got into her car, her reflection faint in the glass. The conversation replayed in her mind. Mara's warning, her mother's secretive tone, the strange mention of the file. As she drove back toward the city, her headlights cut through the mist. The rain began again, heavier now, and for a moment she thought she saw a shadow near the gate, a figure standing still, watching her car disappear down the road. She blinked. The shadow was gone. Only the rain remained, whispering against the windshield like a secret waiting for its moment to be told. Monday morning in Seattle carried a brutal chill, the kind that made lungs ache and thoughts sharper. Lena Morrell sat at her apartment balcony with a cup of steaming coffee, watching the mist rise over Lake Union. The city below moved like it always did, oblivious to the subtle chaos waiting to seep into her life. Her phone buzzed. "Lena, are you home yet?" Mara Bennett. She smiled faintly and typed back. "Yes, just back."
"Why?"
"I need to warn you. Something's wrong. Call me when you can." The brevity of the message made her stomach tighten. Mara had never sent urgent texts without reason. Lena's mind wandered to the weekend. Her mother's secretive calls, the shadow by the gate, the cryptic warning about the file. She ignored her first instinct to brush it off and dialed Mara. "Lena." Mara's voice was low, almost breathless. "I don't know how to explain it, but your family, they're planning something. I overheard a conversation between your mother and someone else. It's about your house. They're planning what?" Lena cut in, a chill running down her spine. Mara hesitated. It sounded like they wanted to move in. All of them. And they're serious. They've been preparing behind your back while you were away. Lena's hand tightened around the phone. Her house, her sanctuary, the place she'd built from years of work, savings, and sacrifices. The thought that it might be under threat sent a wave of nausea and fury she couldn't suppress. "I need proof," Lena said, voice taut. "I need to know everything. Don't go there alone. They'll sense it if you snoop. But I can help. Just trust me." Hours later, Lena sat in her office, the skyline glowing orange with late afternoon light. She stared at her computer screen, trying to focus on urban designs for a new waterfront project, but her mind kept drifting back to the warning. By evening, she had made a decision. She couldn't wait. She needed eyes and ears in her home, a way to see what her family was up to without stepping into their trap. That's when she called Caleb Vaughn, the head of a private security firm she'd used for a previous high-profile project. "Lena Morrell?" Caleb's voice was calm, professional, and sharp. "I've heard about your request. What's the situation?" "I need full surveillance on my property immediately," she said, suppressing the tremor in her voice. "Locks, cameras, sensors, everything. And discreet. No one can know I'm doing this." "Understood. Give me an hour, and we'll have a team on site. You'll have live feeds accessible from your phone." When the call ended, Lena felt a flicker of control returning. She had been in charge of her life once. She could reclaim that power now, even if it was just a start. Night fell over Seattle, streets slick with rain and reflections of neon signs. Lena watched from her balcony as the security team worked quietly around her property. Cameras went up. Digital locks replaced the old hardware, and sensors scanned every corner of her home. By the time she finally went to bed, the house was virtually impenetrable. Sleep came reluctantly. She dreamt of shadows moving in corners, whispers in rooms she knew intimately. Her mother's face twisted in anger, her sister's laughter echoing too close to her own ears. And through it all, the faint glow of security monitors, eyes everywhere, watching, waiting. The next morning, the first signs of trouble appeared. Lena was in her office reviewing project notes when a delivery notification popped up on her phone. Not for work supplies, but a familiar courier company she hadn't used in months. The address, her home. Curious, she tapped the tracking number. Her blood ran cold. Delivered at front door. Boxes and furniture items. Her mind raced. She hadn't ordered anything. Then a message arrived on her private surveillance app, live feed from the front of her house. She froze. Beatrice Morrell, her mother, stood in the rain, holding a small key in her hand. Behind her, Miranda, Jade, and Paige shuffled boxes toward the front door. Their faces lit with a kind of triumphant anticipation Lena had only seen in films about heists and betrayals. A tight knot formed in Lena's chest. It wasn't a prank. They weren't joking. She zoomed the camera in on the key. Her spare had been stolen or copied somehow. Her stomach churned, anger and disbelief battling for dominance. Caleb's voice came through the secure line she'd set up. "You need to act, Lena. They're trespassing. What do you want me to do?" "Wait," she said, steadying her trembling hands. "Let them make the first move. Record everything. Don't engage physically. I want proof." The next hour passed like a slow-motion nightmare. She watched them drag furniture, push open closets, laugh at the sight of things she had meticulously placed, and move into her private spaces as if they had a right. Every laugh, every comment, was a dagger to the trust she had once held. Then Lena's phone pinged again, a message from Daniel Mercer. "I heard about the situation. Do not confront them yourself. I can coordinate legal protection immediately. We'll stop this before it escalates." Even as fury burned in her chest, a strange comfort settled in her mind. Daniel was there. Always steady. Always pragmatic. She could rely on him, even as betrayal clawed at the edges of her calm life. By nightfall, the rain had turned into a torrent. Lena stayed glued to the live feeds, a silent general in her own fortress. Her mother tried the key again, jiggling it in the lock. Her sisters pushed against doors, laughed when nothing happened, shouted as the digital keypad flashed coldly, denying them access. Through the speaker Caleb had installed, Lena's voice could project anywhere on the property. She leaned close to her phone and whispered into the mic. "You will not enter my house. Leave now, or I will involve law enforcement." For the first time, their faces reflected panic. Miranda shouted, "Lena, open this door. You can't do this to us." "Yes, I can," Lena murmured to herself. "And I will." Outside, the first wail of sirens began faintly, then crescendoed as police cars appeared at the end of a street. Her mother froze. Paige clutched her box in fear. Jade swore under her breath. Lena felt a strange, cold satisfaction settle in her chest. Justice was no longer abstract. It was imminent. The storm outside mirrored the storm within Lena's heart. But as she watched her family's shocked, faltering faces from the comfort of her fortified home, she realized something. This was only the beginning. The wail of sirens cut through the night like a blade. Lena Morrell remained perched near her surveillance monitors, calm but unyielding. She had anticipated panic, but nothing could have prepared her for the combination of shock, disbelief, and rage etched across her family's faces. Through the exterior camera, she watched her mother, Beatrice, stumble backward, staring at the digital keypad that had replaced the old lock. Her fingers trembled over the device, helpless. Behind her, Miranda, Jade, and Paige froze mid-step, realizing their plans had collapsed. The movers, unaware of the police arrival, hesitated near the truck. Lena toggled the microphone. "This is your final warning. Leave my property immediately." Miranda's voice cracked with outrage. "We have every right to be here. You can't do this to us." "Yes, I can." Lena's voice rang through the speaker, steady and commanding. "This is my home, and you have no legal or moral right to occupy it. Leave, or law enforcement will handle you." Minutes later, patrol cars arrived at the curb. Two uniformed officers approached the scene cautiously, noting the scattered boxes and stunned expressions. Lena spoke through the microphone again. "Officers, I am Lena Morrell, the property owner. My family has attempted to enter my home without permission. They have been informed to leave, and this incident has been recorded via security cameras. Please proceed as you see fit." The officers nodded and stepped forward. Beatrice attempted to argue, tears streaming down her face. "She's my daughter. This is family. How can you call the police on me?" One officer calmly replied, "Ma'am, property laws apply regardless of familial ties. You must vacate immediately, or we will enforce the law." The realization hit her mother like a physical blow. Miranda and Jade abandoned their post near the door, gathering their boxes with frantic haste. Paige lingered, her expression a mixture of fear and shame. Lena watched it all unfold, the months of tension and betrayal crystallizing into a stark, final tableau. Within the hour, the driveway was cleared. The movers packed their equipment away, the police officers recorded the incident, and her family, disheveled, humiliated, and defeated, was forced to retreat. Lena exhaled, letting the tension leave her shoulders. She reviewed the camera footage once more, ensuring every angle, every attempt at intrusion, had been captured. The digital locks and surveillance had not only protected her property, they had preserved her right to enforce justice. The following day, Lena contacted her attorney, Daniel Mercer, to formalize the aftermath. He drafted official notices for any items left behind and reinforced legal boundaries. If they failed to retrieve their belongings within 1 week, it will be considered abandonment, he advised. All fees for storage and removal will be their responsibility. It was a small but significant victory. Lena had taken control of what was hers, defending not only her property, but her autonomy. Weeks later, social media erupted with posts from Beatrice and her daughters, portraying themselves as victims. Their narratives painted Lena as cold, unfeeling, even cruel. Lena scrolled through them silently, a mixture of bemusement and resolve washing over her. A message arrived from Mara Bennett. "Don't let them get to you. We know the truth. You did the right thing." A quiet smile touched Lena's lips. She didn't respond publicly. Some battles were won not through words, but through steadfast action. Months passed. Lena returned to her home fully, no longer hiding in hotels or doubting her choices. The security system remained in place, her fortress now a symbol not only of protection, but of independence. Her relationship with Daniel evolved naturally, built on trust, mutual respect, and shared quiet moments overlooking the Seattle skyline. Romance emerged gently, a counterbalance to the chaos she had endured. She occasionally received reports of her mother and sister's lives unraveling, unpaid rent, arguments over finances, the stark consequences of their impulsive actions. There was no joy in their misfortune, only a quiet sense that justice, in its measured way, had been served. One rainy evening, Lena poured herself a glass of wine and watched the water drip along the windowpane. A sense of peace settled over her. For the first time in years, her home felt truly hers, not just a building, but a sanctuary built through years of hard work, patience, and courage. She whispered to the empty room, "This house is mine. My boundaries are mine. My life is mine." The rain outside whispered back, soft and persistent, echoing through the city, a lullaby of survival, resilience, and triumph. And somewhere far beyond the city limits, her family faced the natural consequences of their choices, while Lena Morrell embraced a life reclaimed, stronger, wiser, and free.